A candidate walks up to the brass bell in the center of the grinding compound at the Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado. It is 2 in the morning. His uniform is soaked in freezing Pacific Ocean water, and he strikes the metal 3 times to formally announce he is quitting the program. In that exact fraction of a second, the United States Navy mathematically writes off tens of thousands of dollars in unrecoverable training investments. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now and ring the bell. We cover the stories the history books skip. You don't want to miss what's coming next. I served nearly 20 years in the special operations community. I am not going to name names or list specific operations. A lot of that is in the past and some of it stays there. I came back with this body, some titanium hardware in my spine, and a military disability rating. Now this channel is my job. I share the reality of what it takes to survive in the worst conditions on Earth. I share what I know, you watch. That is the exchange. Today we are completely ignoring the motivational narratives of Navy SEAL training to examine the brutal, unclassified economics of producing a Tier 2 special operations asset. The civilian public watches documentaries about the physical suffering of basic underwater demolition SEAL training, known as BUD-S, and they view it entirely as a test of human willpower. The Department of Defense views BUD-S as a massive, highly expensive industrial manufacturing pipeline. Producing a single, mission-ready Navy SEAL from civilian recruitment to their first operational platoon deployment costs the American taxpayer roughly $2 million. To understand why a single operator costs $2 million, you first have to understand the mathematical burden of the attrition multiplier. BUD-S historically maintains an attrition rate hovering between 75 and 80%. This means that to produce 20 Navy SEALs, the military must recruit, medically screen, house, and feed 100 candidates. The Navy physically pays for the medical examinations, the initial training pipeline, the daily caloric intake, and the administrative processing for the 80 men who eventually quit. The financial cost of those 80 washouts is mathematically absorbed into the final price tag of the 20 men who graduate. The financial expenditure begins at Naval Special Warfare Preparatory School in Great Lakes, Illinois. Before a candidate even sees the California coast, the Navy spends 2 months physically conditioning them to survive the shock of Coronado. At this stage, the military is feeding hundreds of candidates roughly 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day to build dense muscle mass. They are paying a dedicated staff of civilian sports medicine professionals, physical therapists, and strength coaches to monitor bone density and prevent early stress fractures. Every candidate who fails the exit physical at prep school represents thousands of dollars of wasted logistical fuel before the real training even commences. For the candidates who survive prep school and transition to Coronado for the actual BUD-S pipeline, the overhead costs explode exponentially. The largest single expenditure at the Naval Special Warfare Center is not the boats or the logs, it is the instructor cadre. The men running the training are not entry-level military personnel making minimum wage. They are highly decorated, combat-experienced Navy SEALs, typically in the senior, enlisted ranks from petty officer first class to master chief. You are paying for decades of institutional knowledge. A standard BUD-S instructor receives their basic military salary, plus a massive basic allowance for housing scaled for the extremely high cost of living in San Diego, California. Furthermore, they receive a stacked matrix of special operational incentives, including hazardous duty jump pay, dive pay, demolition pay, and special duty assignment pay. When an instructor is standing on the beach with a bullhorn, you are looking at a human asset who costs the Navy over $120,000 a year, and there are dozens of them operating in shifts around the clock. The operational overhead required simply to run the physical events is staggering. When a BUD-S class runs the obstacle course or conducts a 2-mile ocean swim, the Navy does not just send them out alone. A fully staffed military ambulance with emergency medical technicians is required to idle nearby. High-speed rigid hull inflatable boats, burning expensive aviation-grade marine fuel, must patrol the water to retrieve drowning candidates. The military is paying for constant, heavily armed range safety officers, dive medical officers, and independent duty corpsmen to stand by with oxygen and defibrillators. During the 5.5 days of Hell Week, the logistical burn rate reaches its absolute peak. The class is in continuous motion for 120 hours, consuming up to 7,000 calories a day per man through massive volumes of hot field rations and military dining facility food. The candidates physically destroy thousands of dollars worth of combat uniforms, boots, and tactical webbing through sheer friction with the sand and asphalt. The rubber inflatable boat, known as the IBS, costs several $1,000s per unit, and the fleet of boats requires constant patching, valve replacement, and maintenance from dedicated support personnel to survive the daily abuse. When a class transitions to the second phase of BUD-S, the cost of the equipment transitions from cheap rubber to highly complex life support technology. The combat diving phase requires the maintenance of massive training pools, hyperbaric decompression chambers, and pressurized air compressor facilities. Candidates begin training on the Draeger LARV closed-circuit oxygen rebreather, a specialized piece of diving apparatus that produces zero surface bubbles. A single Draeger unit costs roughly $10,000, and the Navy must maintain a massive inventory of these machines, constantly replacing oxygen sensors, carbon dioxide scrubber canisters, and rubber-breathing hoses. Third phase moves the candidates to San Clemente Island for land warfare, introducing the massive financial burden of live ammunition. In the conventional military, an infantry soldier is allotted a highly restricted number of rounds per year for qualification. In SEAL training, the volume of fire is almost limitless. During third phase, the candidates will burn through hundreds of thousands of rounds of 5.56 mm, 7.62 mm, and 9 mm ammunition. They deploy live fragmentation grenades, fire expensive anti-tank rockets, and consume thousands of pounds of C4 plastic explosive to learn dynamic breaching. Transporting the students and the cadre to San Clemente Island involves logistical air support from Navy transport squadrons or costly civilian ferry contracts. Every single meal, every drop of fresh drinking water, and every piece of medical equipment must be physically shipped from the mainland to the island. If a student suffers a catastrophic injury on the island, the military immediately dispatches a medevac helicopter, an evolution that burns thousands of dollars in jet fuel per hour just to save a single candidate who will likely be medically discharged. Graduating BUD-S does not make a candidate a Navy SEAL. It merely qualifies them to attend SEAL Qualification Training, known as SQT. This is a 26-week advanced training pipeline where the actual modernization of the operator occurs and the price of the gear skyrockets. During BUD-S, the candidates wore cheap, heavy helmets and carried beat-up training rifles. In SQT, the Navy begins issuing the actual Tier 2 operational loadout. The gear issue alone represents the cost of a luxury vehicle. A student is issued an OpScore Fast Maritime Ballistic Helmet, which costs over $1,500. They receive ground panoramic night vision goggles, the 4-tube optics that provide a massive field of view in the dark, which retail for over $40,000 a set. They are issued custom combat uniforms from Cry Precision, where a single shirt and pant combination costs over $300, and they are issued multiple sets. They receive heavily modified Mk-18 or HK-416 assault rifles equipped with highly classified infrared lasers, suppressors, and specialized optics. During SQT, the students must attend the military freefall parachute course. Airborne operations are incredibly expensive. To teach a student how to jump from 10,000 feet, the Navy must utilize massive C-130 Hercules or C-17 Globemaster aircraft. Operating a military cargo aircraft costs the Department of Defense tens of thousands of dollars per flight hour in maintenance, fuel, and aircrew salaries. The students will conduct dozens of jumps, utilizing complex steerable ram air parachute canopies that cost thousands of dollars per rig, packing and repacking them under the supervision of highly paid civilian riggers. The SQT curriculum also includes survival, evasion, resistance, and escape school, intensive close-quarters combat training, and advanced medical trauma courses. The students fire more ammunition in the 6-month period than entire Marine infantry battalions fire in a year. The Navy contracts highly specialized civilian facilities for advanced driving courses, where students learn to execute high-speed evasive maneuvers in armored vehicles. They contract civilian shooting ranges, private maritime vessels for boarding operations, and specialized role players for complex urban warfare simulations. When a student finally completes SQT and receives the Special Warfare Trident pin, the $2 million has officially been spent. The Navy does not view this as an expense. They view it as the creation of a highly refined, zero-fail weapons system. The millions of dollars were not spent on the physical flesh and bone of the operator. The money was spent to upload an incredibly complex software program into the human brain, forging a cognitive architecture capable of processing chaotic violence and executing surgical precision under extreme lethal pressure. If this gave you a real picture of what it actually costs to manufacture a Tier 2 Special Operations asset, hit the like button. Drop a comment. Do you think the $2 million price tag is justified for the capability the military receives? Share this with someone who thinks special operations training is just about running on the beach and doing push-ups. They need to understand the brutal mathematics behind the Trident.